So episode 1, take 1.
It's official.
Hello.
Hi.
How you doing there, my friend?
Much better now that we've officially started this journey.
Definitely. I'm super pumped to be here recording our very first podcast. And just wanted to kick off with some introductions. So here we are. I'm Amy Alexander, and I'm sitting virtually with a dear friend and my co-podcast partner, Denyse Rabat. And as I just shared, to record our very first podcast episode. So I wanted to kind of jump in and tell a little bit about our story of how we met. And then we will dive into our topic for today, which I think our listeners will really, really enjoy. So Denyse and I met back in 2015 after we were picking up our mail from our neighborhood bank of mailboxes. So I still live in a row home community, and in the center there is a grouping of 3 banks of mailboxes where there's a key and you can walk out and get your mail. And there was another woman there one day. I didn't recognize her. They had just recently moved in. And after a pleasant exchange, we soon found ourselves and our kids frequently spending lots of time together. Denyse, at the time we had met, had a little girl, Ella, and I had a little boy, Caleb. They were super small, super cute, and they instantly loved each other. I mean, we even have a picture of them walking down the street, holding hands. It's adorable. I kind of feel like Ella might have been in a costume. I'm not 100% sure, but it's
probably back then.
Some princess costume. But anyways, they were so cute. Now, since I'm in the Midwest in Chicago and Denyse is out in Orange County, the kids haven't seen each other in some time. But if they did, they probably would take one look at each other and sit at opposite corners of any.
They were so enamored with each other at 4 years old. I don't know about a 10. They've now, maturity is set in. But
yes. Now it's you're a girl, I'm a boy. No, we can't talk to each other. So anywho, so our families just instantly clicked, even our hubbies. And with men, this could be hard. Really, really enjoyed spending time together. And it definitely helped that we are both Aquariuses and love to chat totally, which I think is one of the reasons that we decided to give this a whirl, because we thought that we were pretty funny just in our everyday.
That's such an Aquarius thing to think that we are also very entertaining, but hopefully people agree.
So yeah, and we like to chat, and as we're talking now, neither one of us can get our own words in edgewise, which is all good and typical for our conversation. But fast forward with a move back to Orange County for Denyse and a baby also for Denyse and some job pivots for both of us, we decided that we could add a podcast to our busy lives. So in between PTA and hockey and other sports and our beauty regimens, as well as our paid clients that we work with, we just wanted to, throw another thing to the fire. So after months of planning and rescheduled meetings and missed deadlines and everything, we are here today, and we're just diving in and hope for the best.
A goal actualized in motion.
This is big. This is really, really big. So we have this episode and one other planned, and hopefully we can continue to put these out on a regular basis. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Midlife at the Mailbox. Over 6 years ago, during a chance meeting at our neighborhood mailbox, 2 strangers met and a new friendship blossomed into something bigger.
Although we no longer share a mailbox, we're closer than ever in real life. This chance meeting in our neighborhood mailbox inspired a friendship, a business relationship, and now a podcast. So come along, let's listen in.
Oh my gosh. So, I'm going to dive in and tell you a little bit about me. And then when I'm done, Denyse will tell you a little bit about her. And then we will jump into our topic for today. So I am Amy. I am someone who connects small business owners with their optimal customer. In other words, I'm a marketing consultant. I focus on partnerships with small businesses to help owners drive the right traffic through their doors. For the past 20 years, I've supported retail, restaurants, construction, and various service businesses with their social media, email, budgets, online advertising, old school advertising, and just general overall marketing strategies. When I'm not posting on Instagram for my clients or doing it for myself, I am a hockey mom and a budding at-home clean eating, healthy eating chef. I use air quotes when I say chef. I do follow lots of other people's recipes, but that's okay. And I want to introduce you to my friend Denyse, and she's going to tell you a little bit about what she does when we're not recording podcasts.
Hey everyone, I'm Denyse. I'm the other half of the mailbox. I loved Amy's intro because it's true. I mean, over the years, we've had so many deep, meaningful conversations that, you don't always have with every friend, right? But her and I like to, we're kind of both in a helping profession, just a little bit different fashion. And so, we like talking about these topics. Not everybody does. And so we thought this was just a great way to do it. So in essence, I'm a consultant, right? And I love to also work with professionals, teams, organizations, and I really want to help them, with their career development and and communication strategies. Some say like my superpower is really to connect with people at any level. And that's why I'm connecting with all of you today via podcast, right? It's just a different medium. And I know podcasts are not new, but I've recently become a podcast enthusiast and I like learning from them. I like listening to them. I like consuming them, right? It's a different way. It's not something that I had done in the past. I know I'm a little late to the party, but here I am. Now I'm working at as a creator. I also love to help people communicate and coach them to build their career story and network. It's not a natural to me because, like I said, I would love to connect. I'd love to communicate, love to talk. But I've, now I guess I can add podcast creator to my story too, as of today. So it's exciting for me. Most recently, I've been working as a consultant in private practice in a company I started called Denyse for Bot Career Coaching. And it's been about 8 months in the making, and I've been working with some really dynamic professionals. Prior to that, I also was at Lee Hecht Harrison, or as it's now known as LHH, as a career consultant. I worked with individuals who are in career transition. So these are companies who've displaced employees and providing them with career development services. So I did that, real early in the pandemic, and it was just an amazing experience. I've spoken to over 400 individuals, and it was pretty cool. But prior to that, in a past life, I spent 15 years in communications. I did high-tech communications, entertainment marketing, and also PR. So, but I'm not consulting. I'm a wife and a mom of 2 little ones that live in Seal Beach and Rossmore. We did do a 16-month stint in Chicago, which is how I met Amy. So the best thing I brought back was Amy and our friendship from the Chicago area. The cold weather wasn't for my family, but but Amy and the Alexander family was. So I'm happy that all happened. In my free time, in the post-COVID era, I've still taken up online dance classes. I love that. It gets a lot of the energy, gives me a lot of fulfillment. I think we'll talk about that a little later in our podcast. And I also am nurturing a flock of plants. I'm actually looking out at them now. 2 years now. They've been kind of keeping me sane in this crazy world these days. So that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. And I have the funniest story when I can totally attest to with Denyse and her family and not liking the cold weather was her parents came out to visit in October. I think was for Ella's birthday. Mm-hmm. And her dad, I remember you telling me this whole story that he went to REI and literally head to toe outfitted himself in all this cold weather gear. It was probably, I don't know, 40 or 50 degrees in October at that point, but he was ready for the next snowpocalypse. And
yes, we are California born and raised, but I will say you meet the most kind-hearted and really people that connect in the Midwest. And obviously I came back with a great friend in Amy and the Alexander family. So
And us the same.
It was not all snowstorms and ice. Today we're here to talk about a topic. Amy's going to usher it in because this is something that her and I've worked at. As I said, I'm a career coach. And Amy and I started kind of talking at a more formal level about a year ago, actually, Amy. I think that sets up really nicely what you're going to talk about today.
My husband and I and son, we decided that Chicago was very much on the big lockdowns, across the US because of COVID. And we opted to head to Tampa. And so we were down in Tampa for about 3 months. During that time, I was laid off from my sales director role. Really, at that point, looked back at my goals and what I was really hoping for and striving for since my son was very small. And as I was kind of making some changes within my own life. And when I was laid off, Denyse and I obviously continued our conversation, and she kind of helped to focus me on me and building my brand and my story. And I think that really resonates with our topic today, which is the pursuit of happiness, feeling fulfilled in your life, feeling happy in your life. Are you a little bit more, is it more vitality? Is it fulfillment? Is it happiness? What is happiness? And so we wanted to kind of dive in and discuss that a little bit about how I kind of came about with this and how Denyse resonates with this topic as well. We've shared that we're both parents, and in 2011, my son was born. I was working full time. I commuted downtown to Chicago. I was on the train early. I was home late, and I really felt like I was missing out on a lot of my son's early life, and I was very, very unhappy. But I didn't really recognize that the job that I was doing or being away from home was the thing that was upsetting me and making me feel so unhappy. It really took some changes to my life and just kind of like my mental state to really realize like, hey, like there's some other things out there that would excite me and would allow me to really fill in the holes of the things that I was missing. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's, transitions like that and big life event changes, for a lot of people cause them to really reevaluate their position, right? What they're doing. And it's at least it's super common in the people I talk to, professionals. It was just stood out huge when COVID started and the pandemic hit. And I had clients, reevaluating their whole life, right? So you're not alone. And especially, and it's very, very common too amongst new parents, especially working new parents, but both, right? Even parents that stayed at home and then they're like, what?
Right. So I think one of the pieces is like, I did a quick definition. So happiness, I took this off of Google. So happiness in psychology is a state of emotional well-being that a person experiences either in a narrow sense when good things happen or in a specific moment, or more broadly as a positive evaluation of one's life. So during my transition from my job that I had when I was on maternity leave and moving forward, I decided that I wanted to start writing a blog. And so I titled my blog, Life, Kids, and the Pursuit of Happiness. During this time, there was a lot of loss in my life. It wasn't all happy. And I felt like a lot of what I was writing just really geared towards the negative, right? Just all like lots of sad feelings. And it wasn't happy. But I think one of the pieces that, we want to kind of uncover and discuss is happiness is something that is not static. There are always going to be ebbs and flows. And is it happiness, or is it that I'm missing out on something, like that I'm trying to feel a different way, find another connection. And so for me, that trying to feel fulfilled in my life was, okay, I knew that the job that I was in was not good and I needed to make a change, right? So I set about how to make that happen. And I felt like if I was in a position that I can work from home, that I can be present in my son's life, if I can be more present for as a wife and as a mother, that my life would be more happy, right? And I started writing, and I started writing about my son, and I started writing about friendships and just having conversations. And I think a lot of what we're talking about here was really present, you know, in 2016 when I set out to start my blog, right? These topics, these things that we talk about still every single day are still ever so present in our life, right? So us feeling that desire to, we weren't obviously being fulfilled by being at home during the pandemic. We couldn't do the things that we used to do. We couldn't move as fluidly right out in the world. So we decided, hey, let's pick up, let's change, right? Let's change that story, and let's be someplace that is warm, is sunny, you know, is that you know, our kids can be in school. Well, my kid could be in school, that, you know, we didn't have to do 2 hours in the morning and, you know, the rest e-learning, that we all could feel this sense of, you know, happiness or being fulfilled by that kind of day to day that we were doing. And being in Florida really, really brought that out. And I feel like it was really making us question where the best place for us would be and for our family. You know, we really felt like we were trying to have that power to influence ourselves, right?
You needed to move your mailbox. You moved that initial mailbox, but I did it first. Forget.
Denyse needed to warm up from Chicago, but that's so true, is that we needed to move and kind of realize that we do have that power to influence ourselves and making those connections and making and kind of, you know, making the changes into our lives. And how do you do that? How do you get to a place where you feel like you have that power to influence yourself, your sense of well-being? How do you set those intentions for yourself? And to kind of back up a second, was picking up and moving, or was getting a new job and working from home and starting the blog and figuring out, you know, other parts of my life, was that something that was that happiness? Was that a feeling of happiness, or was it something else?
Yeah, and I mean, we've talked about this too a little bit in the past. The idea of happiness, right? You named your blog about it, right? Your younger self was searching for that quote unquote like happiness, and I think we've talked about. And I challenge you, like, is it happiness? You really look. Is it, you know, possible to feel like, when I think of happiness, right? I think about a night out with girlfriends, or watching my daughter at a dance recital and getting that, you know, that warm and fuzzy, like happy feeling, smile, like, you know, from ear to ear. And it, you know, I don't know that that's, well, at least I'll speak for myself, not possible, you know, it's unexpected, or it's just unattainable to be happy all the time. If you were happy all the time, you would never know sadness, you'd never know happiness, right? But like, is it more feeling fulfilled, right? Feeling vital, feeling like you have a purpose, and is that more manageable? Is that more attainable than, you know, this idea of happiness? So yeah, I mean, I think you're on the right path, right? I mean, maybe initially you thought it was happiness that you were searching for, but maybe it's that, you know, maybe it's fulfillment, maybe it's vitality, right? And I think we'll talk. I mean, I kind of uncovered that, you know, in a book I was reading recently called Everyday Vitality. I mean, I'll put it up. It's by Samantha Boardman. She's a doctor of positive psychology and, you know, Harvard trained psychiatrist. And I just love her book and all the things that she says in there. I highly recommend it.
And it's a new book, right? Like, so I've also started reading it. I have not finished it yet. But it was written in 2021. So it very much resonates with the time we are at today. And I think one of the interesting pieces so far that I've read was when she kind of talked about how, you know, you'll have to make a note if we'll have to like put up like an emoji or something, like if you've ever gone through therapy, right? So I've gone through therapy, you know, working with a therapist. Denyse has gone through therapy, working,
more than that.
a couple times in my life. Yep. And you know, one of the things that I really noticed, especially during my last big bout when I was so unhappy, or I was not feeling vital, I'm gonna kind of put that out there, is everything that I brought to the session was so negative, right? It was all of my negative energy. It was negative feelings. And, I think it's interesting too, that she went back to school, this author, this Dr. Boardman, she went back to school to figure out, wait a second, I just lost a client because she had the same thoughts as I'm bringing to the table right now, that the entire session was just a bitch sesh, right? Like, it was just talking about the awful things that are going on in my life, when there's clearly, every day is not just a whirlwind of negative. I woke up today and I felt great. Is there days that I wake up and I don't feel great? 100%, right? So we can't always feel happiness, but can we be more fulfilled? Can we have this vitality for life? I definitely think so. And so I wanted to put out to our listeners that, we don't always have to feel like we're on this Ferris wheel of starts and stops. I think both Denyse and I are guilty of this as well, that, we're certainly not perfect, right? We've been talking. What? We've been talking. We'll tell our husbands that we're perfect, 100%. But we know, right, that we've been putting out there for months that, we set off in the spring and the summer and the fall of last year to really give our individual businesses a go and a really good run. And do you know how many starts and stops, probably monthly, that we had, and how many times we had set something up like, okay, we're gonna do this and this by this, and that we ended up getting to this and had to push it back, or forward, like that we couldn't get it done. So we're still in this cycle, right? We are not perfect, but we're really trying to work towards feeling like we're not just on this Ferris wheel of starts and stops, right? Of thinking about our intentions, of what it is that we want, that's going to give us that day-to-day happiness, right? That's going to give us that feeling of when we go out with our girlfriends or our spouse or our group of friends, or being with our kids or with our families and our parents, and feeling happy and joyful. Look, I went out Friday night with some girls. It's been months since I had seen them, and really that we sat, and we got there we got to the restaurant at 6:45, and the next thing we know, it's after 10. And one of the girls is like, Amy, is it time to go home? Because I drove. We need to get going. My eyes are closing here, not because we're not having fun, but she's also a busy working mom, and the same thing. So we had that happiness, and you feel really good after you.
Yeah. Absolutely. You'll get to that later in the book too, when you read, and she talks about, Dr. Borman talks about that feeling of vitality. And sometimes, the urge to maybe if you're doing a lot or you're feeling run down or burned out, and burnout is a very hot topic on Instagram and the helping community right now. Just the last 2 years have really, it's already been happening, but last 2 years just intensified it, right? Because most people's lives in the whole world, not just the United States, were turned upside down. But going back to Dr. Boardman, what she was talking about is that, sometimes even if you're if you're tired or exhausted, a busy day, or you feel burnt out, quote unquote. And, maybe someone, someone had invited you to do something, right? But you thought, well, I'm not going to do that because I'd rather just sit home and rest and, and just watch TV or be on my phone and just not be out, because that'll make me feel recharged. But what she shows and the research shows is that actually, that doesn't always the case. If you're sick or whatever, yes, stay home, physically sick. But
stay home.
If you're just, especially in the COVID era, stay home. But if you're not, you're just kind of feeling just in a funk or out of it, or just tired. It's not always the best idea to just sit on that couch. And
that's the easiest, right?
Yeah,
it's easy to sit on the couch.
Or it's a go-to, right? For some people thinking, well, I'm home, I'm not doing anything, I'm just on my phone, right? But that actually being, being isolated can also, for some people, especially extroverted people like you and I, that can almost be, we might feel less we might feel not easy, still tired, right? If we did that, because we get I'm gonna speak for me, I get my energy from other people. So me going out, wake up in the morning, I'm a little tired, but I'll feel more fulfilled and more, I physically might be tired, but I'll feel so much better than probably if I sat home and was on my phone on Instagram and LinkedIn for like an hour and watching Netflix, Bridgerton season 2 or whatever it is, right? So, and then if I would have gone out for 2 hours, spent some time with my girlfriends and really felt that what I need,
Right.
But
That's what you need.
yeah. And I mean, it might not be the same for introverts. And she talks about that too, but she challenges the introverts, right? Like, maybe not every night, but once every 2 weeks, do that. Like take that invitation that you might not do, or go do something that you enjoy. It doesn't even have to be like going out with girlfriends. It could be going out on a walk, like on the beach. Does that make you feel better than sitting on the couch on your phone on Instagram? Probably so.
Right. So I think that that's a huge piece, right? So we've talked about this, is that both of us are clearly extrovert, right? We are, that is our personality. And I think one of the pieces that I've recognized in myself over the past 2 years is some of those extroverted feelings, like I am okay being home. But then when I go out, I'm like, oh, I really miss being out and I really miss being with my friends. And I think that energy, right? That energy that you spoke about, that you do get that from other people. So often, I feel like I'm also a person that if you know me in real life, I tend to be, at least on the surface, like I have it all together, right? This is how I try to, this is the story that I try to tell people by physically looking at me, that I have my shit together, that I have energy, that I'm thriving, when inside that's not necessarily how I'm operating, right? And I have a girlfriend that, has said that to me. We've been out and she's like, Amy, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, like why? Why would you ask? Because if I'm not this like bubbly, outgoing person that's like drawing people in, that there's something wrong, right? And it's not, but those are just some of my introverted feelings that I'm just like, you know what? I just don't have that energy in me today. And that's okay, right? It's okay. It doesn't mean that I'm not happy. It doesn't mean that I'm not necessarily being fulfilled, but it just means like, hey, I gotta like I'm here, I'm present, but I'm not totally there.
Self-awareness is so important, right? And I mean, I think a lot of times that comes with age, experience,
maturity,
wisdom, whatever you want to call it, right?
In our midlife.
Absolutely. But I mean, it's so true, right? I mean, knowing your limits, right? Even though you're extroverted doesn't mean you can't want to sit home one night and watch Netflix. Yes. But at the same time, like if you haven't done that in a while, like you hadn't, right? Didn't that put like a pep in your step? Like, totally. I mean, even today, like I was excited driving here to my house, to do this,
to do our virtual podcast.
Yeah. Coming here to do this because I feel like it's flow, right? And I get flow, career flow and satisfaction, fulfillment from expressing myself and hoping that it impacts others. It may not today, but I hope it will, right? And so this is flow for me. This is fulfillment.
I woke up today. Right now, the clouds have kind of settled in, but this morning when I woke up, I knew I had actually a really busy day today. I had a client meeting this morning. We obviously had our podcast recording this afternoon, but it's a new month. We had a death in our family last week. We were on vacation. There was just, hockey, honestly, hockey takes over your life. And we had come off of our playoffs and just kind of March was just insane. And, we kept it was diet, exercise, everything. I was really going, we picked up a Peloton in October of last year. And from October through basically winter break, I had a 10-week streak that every single week I had done at least one ride on my bike. And then once the new year hit and we got back into town, I had that same 10-week streak. And then I got sick in March. And then, my son is sick. And then we're traveling. And then this and that. And the whirlwind of life really kind of gets in. And that's something that on a day-to-day brings me a ton of fulfillment. It takes everything in my power sometimes to get up and go work out and get on that bike. But once I'm off and once I'm done, I'm like, I am so, so happy that I did that. It's the same thing you were saying about getting out and going for a walk. So I challenge you all to really kind of set some intention of how you can really make your pursuit, right, mean something. So in setting our personal intentions, when you're setting these powerful intentions that you're creating within your specific state, your frame of mind that serves you, that serves your purpose, you're sending a message to the universe, to the world, to yourself, what you are looking for, what are you bringing out? And I wanted to kind of challenge you with a couple of ways to kind of set some intention to your day. And so that you can kind of figure out what is going to make you happy, right? Day to day, what is going to bring you fulfillment? And really kind of thinking about, when was the last time that you thought about what you want, right? We are, I'm going to make an assumption that many of the people that are listening to this podcast are probably women, potentially have children, maybe multiples, or maybe are at a stage of life where their children are grown and they're out of the house, right? So I think about even like my mother. When was the last time that she thought about what she wants? So I challenge you to think about when was the last time that you thought about you? I think so often we are caught up in serving others before we're serving ourselves. And I think one of the big pieces over the years I have learned, and definitely through the pandemic, is if I am serving others and I'm not serving myself, then I am not feeling fulfilled and I am not feeling vital, right? And feeling that vitality. Because if I'm not feeling that, then I'm just going to want to sit and watch Netflix, right? I'm just going to want to binge Bridgerton, or, watch HBO Max and just sit and watch Friends on rerun. Those things right there, those are the things that, that's the introverted me, right? Anyways, so before I go off on too much, promos of shows, I think I want to leave you with a couple of steps. So I want you to think about, when was the last time you thought about something that you wanted to obtain? It wasn't how you're going to get your kid from point A to point B. It's not about pleasing your husband. It's pleasing you. And what do you want to be? How do you wish to contribute what you're doing, right? So an example, I learned that I feel fulfilled in my personal life with self-care. And my self-care can be making sure that my hair is dry. I have curly hair, but I feel better when my hair is straight. I've been straightening it since I was 12 years old, and that makes me feel better. When I get my nails done, or I'm getting my hair done, or I'm getting a facial or a massage, those are things, and I know that they're like surface, but those are things that really help me to kind of unwind and allow me to be the best person that I can be, going out for a walk, and working out. So I think the things.
Amy, how did you get to that? If our listeners are like, oh, I'm super busy, like I don't even spend time to think about myself like that. Like, how did you come to those realizations about self-care and helping others and things like that?
Yeah, great question. So I think it's really trying to figure out, what is one small thing in your life? I'm working with a nutrition coach right now, and we all want to lose 50 pounds, right? Like I would say that, yep, I want to do it, but it's really hard to lose 50 pounds, right? But what are the small things, small changes, the little pebbles that you can do every day to reach this more ultimate goal, right? So is it carving out 20 minutes a day to read, right? Some people might be challenged because they just want to be able to pick up a book. And I think that that's a huge challenge. I have like 10 books sitting on my nightstand right now, all like midway through, because I have really good intentions, but time, right? By the end of the day, I'm so tired from just the whirlwind, but I think it's figuring out ways to, as we've shared, like I'm not perfect, but it's waking up and I'm going to say to myself, you know what? It is a goal of mine to get on this bike. Even if it's 20 minutes, I am getting on this bike and doing it, right? I think that is the hardest piece, is taking that first step to doing it. And so it's setting that intention of, okay, I am going to set aside 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever time that you think that you can do for yourself, even if you are a parent or a mom or a person that is driving to the office, and you're saying to yourself, hey, I'd really like to listen to this podcast. That's your intention. I'm going to shut my phone off. I'm not going to answer it. I'm going to listen to this 30-minute podcast because that's going to bring me fulfillment and happiness during this small time that I am sitting in traffic and I'm going to work, right? So I challenge our listeners with, when was the last time you thought about something that you want? What do you want to be? Who do you want to be? What do you wish to contribute or have done? And write it down. Once you have your intentions set, write it down, tell your mother, tell your father, tell your best friend, put it in your phone, set a weekly reminder, however it is that you are going to be able to figure out a way to hold yourself accountable. Find that accountability buddy, right? So Denyse and I, that's a perfect example of finding that accountability buddy, right? Is we're going to work on this podcast, and each week we're going to meet on Mondays, and we're going to carve out this time and we're going to do it. We'd be lying to you if we said that there were times that we did not reschedule, right? Even today, when we were trying to get our recording in, I was running late from my meeting. Denyse was at an appointment as well. We were both running late, and we just needed like 15 minutes to decompress, to get ourselves together before we jumped on to do this recording. So Denyse and I are very good in terms of accountability buddies, right? Maybe we're pushing things back, but we are holding ourselves accountable to getting it done. So document your journey, and then make your intentions adjustable and attainable. So don't set something like, don't say, I'm going to lose 50 pounds by June, right? Say, I'm going to lose 5 pounds by June, because that's something that's more attainable than 50 pounds by June, right? That would be seriously unhealthy. But 2 pounds a month, 3 pounds a month, it's definitely doable, because
you're on the path. You're on the
path.
Yeah. I mean, I think I saw something like on Instagram last weekend about about veganism, right? And maybe the goal is not to be completely strike animal and dairy products all from, your diet. Maybe it's just slowly eliminate animal products and dairy products if that's your goal, right? And maybe keep some in there, and mostly plant-based, right? And so, it's perfectionism is killing, this is what I said, killing veganism, really, right? I mean, but I think that could be a metaphor for a lot of things, right? Just because you're not losing what you think you should lose, each week, but you're on a gradual journey of loss. I mean, that's a win, right?
That's a win.
That's a win, right? I mean,
the nutritionist that I'm working with, one of the things that she suggested to me was, she asked me in one of our first meetings, how am I cooking? Like I said, I do a lot of cooking at home, and I was kind of following like a Whole30 kind of paleo diet. And so it's more high fat, and she was asking me how I'm cooking. And I said, I use oil. And she's like, do you measure your oil? I'm like, no, I really just I'm a chef. I just eyeball. Who measures? She's like, well, one of the things that you can do is that you're taking on so many calories just from the oil. Like, you literally haven't even eaten. And she's like, you're taking on so many calories from the oil or the butter that you are using to cook your food. And I was like, mind blown from this. I'm like, worth your session fee, just in this little tip. And so I switched instantly to the sprays, right? You don't just have to do the PAM anymore. That's condensed, whatever, but you can actually get avocado oil, and you can get ghee, and you can get all of these items that are in these bottles that are just pressure, and you could spray, and that cuts the calories. And it was just the most sensible, maybe sensible is not the right word, but just what a thought. Practical. What a thought. If you just
small change.
Yes, small change. And so
small changes can make big impacts along the way, right?
Exactly.
If they're done right. So I think that's what you're saying too about, daily habits and things like that. So
exactly. So we would love to continue to have this conversation, and we'd love to continue to correspond with you. So, in our social feeds, please, comment, let us know what you thought about this topic, how you pursue happiness. Do you feel like it's, happiness versus being fulfilled, feeling, that feeling of vitality in your day? How are you going to make some changes in your life, to set some intentions on, how you can be reaching some little milestones, in your life? We want to continue the conversation with you. So definitely comment on, within our social media platforms.
And I highly recommend walking away to just of this fulfillment is Everyday Vitality by Dr. Samantha Boardman. Great read. Great read. Check that out if some of these topics resonate with you. She goes into it and she has research data and all sorts of cool things. So shout out to Samantha, Dr. Boardman. She's awesome.
Woo-hoo. If you want to chat with Denyse or I about the podcast, marketing, or career coaching services, connect with us. We're constantly checking our DMs, our emails. And so any way that you can reach out, we would love to chat with you.
And if you like what you're hearing on Midlife at the Mailbox, please scroll down on the podcast app and leave us a review and a 5-star rating. Share our show with a friend too. We've had so much fun producing and editing our show. As always, check our show notes for any links and free downloads. And please join our community on Instagram or Facebook at Midlife at the Mailbox.
See you at the mailbox.
Bye.
Bye.